Now, my content is sort of like crack to the streets, isn't it? Metaphorically, of course. But the only powder I'm pushing is delicious Gamer Subs, a sugar-free energy formula that doesn't taste all chemically, mixes up nice and well without all sediment, loads of delicious flavours. I'd recommend like Sakura Splash, that's a sour cherry. You could have Cherry Lime Skull, that's a sweet cherry. You could buy some gear. I've got this t-shirt here. There you go, I figured it out. It says Gamer Subs on it. It's also got a woman on the back, a waifu, with massive jogs, who's like an air hostess or whatever. It's the Mile High Club waifu cop t-shirt that they sent me. So all I did was promote a delicious energy formula to you that you could save 10% off, including everything on their store, with the code Thorin, Thorin, at gamersubs.gg. And all I got was great savings for you, delicious drink I enjoy, and this shirt. So, yeah, check it out. Right, for Thorin versus Reddit, I'm going to do it a little bit differently. Instead of collecting comments over months, and then sometimes maybe the context isn't as relevant now, or too many things have changed since then, and it is a stupid comment, but I'm just basically riffing like through a time portal, like Doctor Strange, to some idiot in the past. I'm going to try and make it more on my stream, like live in the moment. Like these are comments from today that I saw this morning, or maybe yesterday. And so they'll be nice and fresh when I then pop them on the fucking Barbie. Get the fuck away from that. Only Papa Bear touches that fucking grill. So anyway, let's roast some motherfuckers. So here's one where KRL, by the way, depending on the context, how much you want to stretch the term legend, a somewhat legendary source figure as an in-game leader in the like late 2000s to early 2010s before we went to CS2. I would say a clout-chasing dickhead nationalist streamer who lives up the arse of Vitality and the other French scene. And so if there's a rumour about a French player, could be accurate. But I'll just say this. I have quite literally gone to the direct sources of some of the leaks he's made, including in this case, and some of them are literally not real, or they're mental shit like, oh, they talked to me in the past, but that's not something recent that's happening now or is happening. So I'll just say that. This isn't going to be about him. He can go fuck himself. But see this comment here? It says, this is something from the leaks, he also mentioned that Apex tried to get Yimfat last year. Actually, I'm going to start trying to say that sweet in the Finnish style. Yimpat last year to replace Mezi, but it didn't happen. Pause. We'll just pause right there. That's because last year, remember, Yimpat was still really good. A lot of people consider him the best at his role, and so it wasn't just Vitality potentially by this logic that would be trying to get him. There was like potentially going to be some bidding war where he would have gone to Falcons, and the story goes if Monacy had gone, he'd have gone, and like Falcons coming into this major this season would have been like Nico, Monacy, Yimpat, some Magisk and Kixon, some like insane fucking roster. Although I don't know if it would have been Kixon because that maybe they wouldn't have bought the core at that time from Heroic, but some IGL at that point in time. So let's already not pretend like that's some bizarre you're going to go Impact. But watch how this dickhead attempts to use it as though it's some like says more about Mezi than it does about Yimpat. So it says, also mentioned that Vitality tried twice to replace him, Mezi, but ended up nothing materialising. I mean, part of that was implied, by the way, that it's based on things like maybe Spinks didn't get along with him, etc. Everything I've heard from within Vitality is they fucking love this guy, Mezi, that he is super legit. He's obviously not a massive fragger. And guess what? Last year they didn't have fucking Robs, did they, you fucking imbecile? So as a result, they didn't have the same quality of team. I always say right now, the numbers, just like for Na'Vi in the summer last year, are mad inflated because they never lose. And they're so good on CT side, people get to farm low enemy opponents, pick up free kills, get nade killed, or everyone's flashed, you've got Zwoo, what Rops going off. That inflates everyone, just like it inflated every great team of all time. Team Liquid 2019, Astralis 2018. Now, admittedly, Team Liquid 2019 at least had people who'd all been stars. It isn't the case that this Vitality is a super team. It isn't. It just has extremely good players in each set of positions, not all the best at their roles. Calm the fuck down, please. So already the idea that, like, they tried to replace Mezi last year when the squad was different and wasn't winning. Let me now make an outrageous conclusion that wasn't said in this drop of all this info. So he goes, so no, guys, Mezi hasn't always been a safe, reliable guy. If Vitality tried to get rid of him for all of last year. So we've gone from, they tried, by the way, they only signed him towards the end of 2023, but apparently the entirety of last year they were just trying to get rid of Mezi because he heard that they tried to get Yimpat, the best player at Mezi's position at the time, and they tried twice to replace him, but nothing ended up materialising. Sounds like they weren't that motivated, really, then. If nothing could materialise, what, there's no other player in the world you can replace him with? Which is it? Can it only be Yimpat, or are there just no other options out there, even in all the other teams, for Mezi, who by your logic sucks, you fucking dunce? I've already checkmated you, haven't I? I've already done you. And then he goes, so no, he hasn't always been a safe, reliable guy. Right, so if you try to get rid of someone, that player cannot be a safe, reliable guy. You couldn't just be wanting something different from that role, or maybe you think CS has a different style and you want like a lot of aggressive players like Falcons is going for now. No. It just must be that. Because we tried to get rid of him, you guys were all saying now that he's good and safe and reliable, not even like Epic, yeah, you're all wrong because they tried to get rid of him before. Well, are they trying to get rid of him now, they're dickhead? No, they aren't. So, okay, can we stop with the revisionism now? No. The only revisionism is if people are saying like his numbers now show he's like twice as good or whatever. He's basically the same player as last year. Go watch the Cologne final against Navi. He pulls off some epic floor-raising plays. It's fucking ridiculous. Then we have this one. I hate as the esports historian, I despise these articles. Not because they are wrong, they shouldn't exist. People always take the wrong fucking conclusions because they don't stop and think. So think about how this goes. I'll give you a quick example. If I told you, it obviously almost happened last season in the Champions League and almost happened in the NFL. If I told you someone's just broken a stats record last season, and then you were like, oh my God, that must mean they're as good as the guy who had the record, or they're the greatest player ever in that statistical area. But anyone who knows those two sports, football/soccer or American football, will know last season is the first NFL season where they added a regular season game. So there's an extra whole game to get stats in. Hence why people like Saquon Barkley could have had that, Saquon Barkley, whoever could have had that record. Then you go over to the Champions League. Actually, the record of Ronaldo for one season of like goals and assists or something wasn't beaten. I think Rafinha or someone came close. But because there's more games, it could have been. Now, that wouldn't have meant that player is as good as Ronaldo because he did it in way fewer games. Similarly, the person who did it in the NFL would potentially have done it in less games, wouldn't he? I think they actually might have sat that guy for the last game, I forget. So, similarly, whenever it says something like, this guy's made this much prize money, he's on this list, people always treat it as if every player in history, now they pretend only CS2 history, they pretend like every great player was playing in the same amount of tournaments with the same amount of prize money, and therefore this is not like a ranking of prize money, it's a ranking of how great you are and how much you accomplished in your career, which is fucking absurd because, for example, the majors up until 2016, you got $100,000 for winning them. Then you go skip forwards, now you get what, like 500k? If you don't know, that one major simple one, because it was the one after COVID, doubled up and you got like $1 million. So it actually isn't some like one-to-one comparison. You have to contextually do it or scale it up or something. So nearly everyone, spoiler, who's at the top is a great player, but they're going to have to be people who've won things more recently, aren't they? So even though it's going to be Carragher and simple, that's also not because of what they did in 2016 as much as what they did more recently when they won, and they were in the teams where you could get hundreds of thousands, you get a grand. By the way, there wasn't even fucking Grand Slams until 2018. You get $1 million extra for winning a Grand Slam. That's why Simple has so much prize money. It's mainly from 2021 because he won that major that was giga stacked, and then he won a fucking Grand Slam, even with online events, by the way, which is another $1 million. Right there's like fucking 2 mil right there. So just those two tournaments, those 2 feats in 1 year got him the entire prize winnings ever of Apex. Now, by your logic, Simple must be more goated than he did it in like, a year or like 6 months or so. No, the Apex didn't have an opportunity. Well, he did back then, but he didn't do it. He doesn't have an opportunity now with his best team to win $1 million in one go at a tournament. He can only win it from the Grand Slam, can't he? So let's consider that and then see how everyone, and remember, I'll always say this, there is a consensus on Reddit. Reddit is by definition a consensus generating machine that tells you what most people reading the thread agree with because they upvote and downvote, and the overall net is, the delta is what is the fucking points, isn't it? So the most upvoted comment is this. Rops being 7th at 25 years old is actually crazy. Because they're thinking like, what the fuck? Like, let's go and have a look who he's above. I can't even see that apparently, so whatever. I'm going to guess he's above like, Kenny S, Get Right. Yeah, obviously, they didn't fucking even play in the era when all the millions were available. Meanwhile, Rops literally won 2 fucking Grand Slams. That's $2 million right there, just from 2022 to 2023 phase, and then now Vitality in 2025. Then in the meantime, by the way, he won that major in 2024. That was his first major. That'll have gotten him 500k. Now he's won this major. That's 500k. You do realise 2 majors, right? Pronax won 3 majors, but they're all worth 100k. So he gets 300k for 3 majors, which is better. 2 majors or 3 majors. Shut the fuck up. And there were no Grand Slams back then. If you'd have gone back, I'll actually do a video on this one day. Guess what? NIP and fucking... I mean, there wouldn't be because it'd have to be ESL tournaments. But you know what? NIP and people like... who else? I don't think Very Games would have got it. Obviously, Fnatic would have won one. Don't think SK would have because they wouldn't have had enough tournaments. Oh no, it depends if you could count in 2017. Some of these teams would have had Grand Slams. They just weren't Grand Slams back then, were they? So it's actually not as crazy as you think. And then when he puts at 25 years old, bruh, are you kidding me? 25 is actually, for real, coming to the end of your peak as a pro based on the current status of what we expect from pros. And by the way, I'll tell you why pros won't be like tennis and sports where they're like 33 still banging like skill-wise. They'll just be IGLs and role players. Is because you have to spend so much time on the road. They're not with their family. If you don't know, in tennis, the hack there was people like Federer just brought his family with him because he makes like fucking $100 million a year, so he can afford to do that, can't he? They don't do that in CS. So as a result, you saw Dupree was crying when he retired, by the way, in part because he's doing it for his family. I get the sense he wants to play still, but he has like a young kid or something. I think he wants to be around that kid. He's not maybe in a world where he can bring his Danish family on the road with him. It's understandable. So as a result, actually, 25, that's when you should have gotten most of your prize money as a star player. If anything, logic would tell us he probably only has like 2 or 3 more years. And if he exceeds that, he'll actually be one of the greatest players of all time as a star. It's almost never happened. You'd have to go to like the fucking Oscars of the world or something like that. And then... after that, it's just IGLs, and then you all go, age is just a number. And then it's like some 35-year-old player, but all he does is like bot frag and then fucking call sick tactic. Age is just a number, not for his motherfucking hands, I'll tell you that. So is that crazy? Rops can easily play for another 7 to 10 years or even more. How do you know? Oh, my bad, because you have a vitality flare. History doesn't tell us that. There is no actual reason, hence why you didn't give one. Oh, and your claim is, and if he doesn't lose motivation, he can win so much more. Right, so it's just his motivation that'll win him everything. He doesn't need Zwoo to stay one of the best players in the world, Apex to continue to be his IGL. It's just if he has motivation, he plays 7 to 10 more years, he's definitely going to win more. Brilliant. Great. If you take Nico as a reference... the biggest outlier ever for a rifler in fucking CS2 history, then he could probably just do what he did because one person ever managed to do it. And it's a miracle he did. All right. Oh, and by the way, obviously, I was actually wrong, Obviously, you wouldn't get the 2 million from the Grand Slam and the majors, would you? Because you only get your cut, you'd get a fifth of that. But even so, you can see how that would pump you way up to getting to there. This guy, again, just refuses to understand the way the circuit works. Crazy that Astralis haven't won, let alone been in a final for 6 years, bar a starter. And yet the roster still occupied top 5. They won a Grand Slam for $1 million. They won 4 majors that pay out as much first place as all the other majors, including today, except the one-off PGL outlier because it was after COVID. You just refuse to understand what is going on here, don't you? Falcons signed Kiyosuke. Get ready. That's the biggest crime of all time. So let's see why they're totally wrong to do that. Even though, spoiler, in like 3 months, if it's really good, you'll all go, it's obvious they spent all that money. They got great players. What do you expect them not to have great results? And then you all said they wouldn't. So get ready. 29 points. Because they signed Kiyosuke. That's why they'll never, I think they're talking about, we're going to kick Tessus next. That's why they'll never be a solid synergistic team. Get ready. They will end up replacing Kiyosuke if he isn't dropping donk ratings in his first T1 appearance. Now, obviously, that's hyperbole, but actually the notion that Kiyosuke, if he doesn't drop basically the best rifle numbers he can, will immediately be removed, is obviously fucking absurd. You're the same people who got super mad Falcons last year wouldn't make a roster move in time and just stuck with Dupree for so long and then gambled on Simple. You all got mad they gambled on Simple. You all got mad that they didn't get a side player before. You're all just getting mad because 1, they're Saudis, and 2, they spend a lot of money. Surely what you want, despite all of that, is for them to get some really good players, be really good in the server, and then who gives gives a fuck about the stuff out there side the server? We're here to watch CS. But you know, you guys are here to just bizarrely, parasocially hate on people. So there'll never be a solid synergistic team because they're going to replace players. Don't worry, there's another angle like this that's equally as shit. Spoiler, almost every team in history improves by actually replacing players. Na'Vi last year is a crazy outlier that they could be so fluky at the major and so shit in the tournaments afterwards and then level up. And you've seen now, they almost got their failure part just afterwards. Now they can't do shit and they're going to have to change. But get ready. Then the Falcons CEO talks about the buyout amount. Yes, I believe you, Falcons CEO. You wouldn't, 736 points on this bozo comment, get ready. You wouldn't downplay your massive $10 million funnel. Pause. They're so fucking stupid. They still think the Saudis are ashamed of spending millions on esports to sports wash. They like it. If it was like, here's the thing. Let's go the other way. I'll make a prediction. If you'd have undercut the amount and you'd have said it was 500k and it was actually 1.5, I don't think you'd say it's 1.5, but I think they come out and go, it's a lot more than that. They're proud to invest, you fucking idiots. If this was any other team and it was a team you liked, getting a player you like, you'd be like, wow, esports has really come a long way. Now they're putting millions in like sports. This is good. This is a sign of things to come. Your $10 million funnel. I like the way it's suspicious that they're getting this money. Where do you think all the other money comes from? Some of the money in the scene, in certain teams and certain websites and events, comes from a company, a betting company that in some countries went fucking bankrupt. But you don't ever comment on their funnel when, let's say, ESL announces an event or HLTV gives an MVP, you fucking and derail the amount you burned investment-wise for a singular trophy. We're now pretending that the investment that they put in to this team only counts for all the tournaments now, and any tournaments in the future, that investment doesn't count towards that. Pause time now, because you're making a roster move, the 10 million you spent, all that ever got you was one trophy. So by this logic, only the Keisuke investment, 2 million, is what gets you all the trophies in the future. So if they win the next major and they have a Grand Slam and they have an era, that was just based on the 2 million. That 10 million is forever failed and wrong, even though you needed that 10 million to get the rest of the roster to get you to now, to where, by the way, Modesty would join and people like Keisuke would join over their own team spirit potentially. And it's even worth spending the 2 million. But no, let's just be, because we're trying to call out corruption and how wrong and stupid Falcons is, let's just be corrupt and stupid ourselves with how we frame our totally disingenuous and dishonest logic. And then let's put here, you burned for a singular trophy. Right, so all Falcons did this season, guys, was win one trophy. Oh, really? I didn't see that, guys, because what I thought they did afterwards is get Modesty, go to IEM Melbourne, one of the bigger events of the tournament. Maybe that'd be like the 4th or 5th biggest tournament of that season. And they not only came second, they played the unbeatable Vitality, who might actually be the best team to ever play Counter-Strike. And they literally had them at championship point on the 5th map. And then they came second. I don't know about you, but I think coming second is very good, because you were all banging on them last year when they couldn't even make playoffs. And you were all the ones that were going, don't write Spirit off for the major, even though they haven't won a fucking tournament, except themselves a little singular PGL Banana Cup trophy. Don't write Spirit off. I think they can stick with this lineup. But no, it's only, you have to win every tournament. I mean, look, there's only one tournament someone who wasn't called Vitality won when they were at events Vitality was at. But let's pretend that's not true and pretend every other team who isn't Vitality are failing. And even if they win trophies where Vitality isn't, that's failure too, because who cares? We're just going to make it that you have to be the best team, or everything you do is wrong and a waste of time. That's a fucking whack move. Then how about this? You have Dupree and Kenny S, when they're retired, have a Falcons jersey on, because that's the last team they played for. 115 points. Get ready for how jarring this is, because Kenny S and Dupree are beloved. By the way, I noticed that. You all banged on Nico for joining Falcons. By the way, he's now been in a bunch of finals. He's won a tournament at Tier 1. He's been in some S-tier finals. He's relevant again, and he's back to a chance to be one of the best players in the world. You all went, how pathetic taking that bag. You make me sick, Nico. You fucking loser. Oh, you just did it for the bag. You'll never even be in a good roster. When all that was turning me wrong, you just go, fuck them, they failed the major. Dupree's allowed to join Falcons, take a massive bag, do fucking shit in potentially fragging star positions, then just casually waltz off. He gets no flame for any of that. And that might have been the last year of his actual pro career. He just burned on that, coming like in 12th place with Falcons. Notice he doesn't get any hate, does he? Weird how that works. Kenny S won, that they weren't even the super team Falcons that spent millions then. Might as well cop the bag on your way out. It's always that. If you like the player, hey, I wouldn't say no. You'd be a fool too. It's about getting paid in your career. You can retire off that money. Hey, you got the bag. What could be wrong with that? Someone else. Oh, I'd like to be a great player and play in a team that could contend for majors and win tournaments and get the bag. I'm called Nico, one of the best players in the world. And by joining, I'll bring other great players. You fucking make me sick. All you did is take the bag. You deserve to lose. And then when he doesn't lose, I'll take the one tournament you did lose at. That's all that happened. All you did was lose at the major. And then this guy, find it hilarious. People are mad that players choose to take the bag. I mean, if any of us was presented with that opportunity, except that doesn't apply, does it? It doesn't apply. Doesn't apply. I love this guy there. Those going to Falcon ain't exactly in need of money. How do you know? How do you know, by the way, someone's like mom doesn't have cancer in America and they haven't spent 200k of their prize winnings just on that for like an entire year's worth, just on helping her? How the fuck do you know what they need with their money? You're one of those idiots who sees how much someone won and thinks they have all that money still. There's a reason NFL players all go fucking broke. Falcons remove Magisk, 90 points. I wonder if Magisk regrets stepping out of Vitality to be with Zonic. It would be insanely hard to see your former team becoming this dominant. Pause. Magisk has never been as good in CS2 as CSGO. Everyone told me, stop making it like it's the same game. People who weren't as good in CS2, it's just a different game. By the way, the joke is some of you said that about Nico, but we all saw that worked out. Well, if it's a different game, then logically he wouldn't be the same Magisk that he was when he was in Vitality, where I thought he was like the third best player. Then it would be insanely hard to see your former team becoming this dominant. They wouldn't have been this dominant if he'd have stayed there. I'm just going to say that right now. Do you know why? You're going to love this. You're actually going to love this. You're going to do something whack, like think he'd be there instead of Mezi. No, his roles back then, he would be there instead of Rops. So let's just think a second. You're implying like maybe he could have stayed there and he'd have had all the success. If you don't think Rops was quite essential to that success, I think you're a fucking idiot who doesn't have an eye for the game. So that doesn't even make sense. They love to do that. They love to do it where like some epic player comes in and replaces you and you go, must be hard because if you'd have stayed, you'd have won everything. It's like, he's not that epic player. Like that doesn't even make sense. If anything, they'd probably never win all that stuff if he's still there. Could have still been pretty good. Would they have gotten Spinks? I don't know, but they did get Spinks. That would have been interesting, right? There's an argument where Rops, and by the way, I wonder if he regrets stepping out since he had almost fuck all success, except this last little period and they knew he was getting replaced. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say maybe he does. It's not really a crazy fucking insight, is it? There's an argument where Rops joining made this happen. Oh, is it? Is there? Is there? But Magisk was the best anchor in the game. I do not think so. I think you've overrated the fuck out of that. The effect on Vitality after the Magisk left was instant. Their floor was incredibly low without him propping them up. So what happened was, when they had Magisk, they barely won Pro League, because Zwoo went plus 50 in a best of 5, against fucking Team Liquid, by the way. Then the next year, they bombed Kato completely, with your boy propping them up there. Then they won IEM Rio, barely, and actually Dupree had to have that hero game against like Cloud9 or whatever on Vertigo to save them and get them in the final. And then they played like Heroic or whatever, who were chokers. Then at the Blast Paris, they played the easiest run of teams ever. And then you went on, they could have lost at least the semis and the quarters, by the way. Then after that, they almost won Blast Banana Cup, but didn't. Heroic beat them. And I think they almost got lost to Fallen and Cello's Imperial. This is where my memory goes. Then you had the player break. Then he won Gamers 8 with them, which was like a super small bracket. And a bunch of teams were in and changed rosters. And then what happened was, out went Magisk and in came Spinks, I think. Fucking hell, why do I keep it? Mezi came in after that. And when Mezi came in, well, remember, they did win their first 2 tournaments, didn't they? But yeah, but what? Their floor was incredibly low. What? And then after that, by the way, the next year, they were like top 4 just permanently the whole year. If anything, they were consistently better without Magisk. It just isn't even true. Imagine a roster with Magisk joined by Rops. So now we're just ignoring roles and all positions and stuff. Like, now Magisk could just do every role. That's what he is. You told me he's the best anchor. We're bringing Rops in. Like, all right, brilliant, great. Mezi is great. He's not great. He's very good for his position. Never disagreeing there. Then what's this whole post about? But imagine the horrifying Vitality. Right, Magisk, Falcons have a magical jersey that's cursed. And when you put it on, all your skill just evaporates off your body. And no matter how much you practice and how much time you put in it, and even if in fact it's a new game, it just makes you not able to be good. Even though checks notes, Nico and Monesi are fucking unbelievable when they wear Falcons jersey. Weird that. Tesses is just as good as he ever was in Heroic. Weird that. Weird how that works. Mezi makes history by being the first UK player to lift a major trophy. Mezi this is the top comment on the thread. This is how horrible people on Reddit are. Instead of thinking, wow, Mezi, as the first UK player, what is that? Think of the significance. What a great accomplishment. Top comment, 716 points is, Mezi is a major winner before Nico. They don't even play vaguely the same position. They're not in the same type of team even. And if you look at the responsibilities, Nico is literally expected to probably be the MVP of the whole tournament if he wins the major. Mezi just has to, checks notes, we don't even know. He could potentially even be like negative numbers in the red. He could have a shit ton. It's still possible to win because you all tell me he plays with the GOAT. He plays with Rops. He plays with the most dominant team maybe ever. And we're going to act like Nico's failure. If you give Nico fucking Mezi's spot, it wouldn't make sense. In a Vitality, would he not win a major? If you gave Nico Rops' spot, would he not be able to win a major? If you gave Nico Flames' spot, can he not win a major? Give me a fucking break. What is this? And this guy, Jesus fucking Christ. It's weird how playing with Zwoo, just suddenly you can win a major. Nico should try it sometime. Same thing, this is good. 291 points because people just refuse to ever learn history. What the worst thing about nephews and Johnny Comes Latelys is they don't go, I haven't watched the game long, but from what I've seen, this guy's the best UK player ever. They go, no, I'm a little shithead tourist nephew, and so everything I see is the best and the greatest and the GOAT because I'm a narcissist who has to believe I live in the greatest time ever, and everything and only the things I've seen are relevant to history. So let me just speak on 25 years of CS history because I saw a couple of years and because someone won a trophy now. So this guy goes, 291 points. He was the UK GOAT before, he wasn't. And he is the UK CS GOAT now. He isn't. Newer fans might not... Oh, go on, tell me about it, bitch-made motherfucker. Tell me about UK CS. Newer fans might not understand. Let's have a history lesson from Chef 97. Just how much UKCS was a joke 10 years ago. Oh, you don't know more than 10 years ago. You probably shouldn't speak on a 25-year period about who the greatest was if you only watched the last 10 years. Could be quite ignorant. I don't know, crazy idea. But maybe in that 15 years, something could have happened. It wasn't just to make fun of us. Oh, he's British as well. It was a true representation of how little we had to offer on the international stage. But anyway, keep going down. Then you go down. It's been a long... How dare you say it's been a long journey when you only follow 10 years? Wonderful, fascinating, and exciting journey to get here. Def. He actually leads with Def. A shitter IGL and support player who was fucking bad at CS, then fucked off to Valorant. I think he's even a coach now, maybe even in CS. I don't even know. Does he even coach like a good team? I think he might even coach like an NA team or like maybe even like a women's team. I don't fucking know. I think he worked in Valorant for a while. He was nowhere close to a great player. Smooya, look, he had the Cologne final, I guess. He had an all-right career. He wasn't an all-time great player. Surreal's irrelevant, by the way. Henry G was from CGS and Source that you didn't fucking follow, by the way. And more importantly, and by the way, Henry G won fucking the CGS by your logic, but you don't know that, apparently. And more importantly, everyone involved in Endpoint, Into the Breach, Game... Yeah. That's really important. People in Endpoint, Into the Breach and Game Legion, when we're talking about the greatest UK player of all time. And of course, you have to say Mighty Max. The scene can produce a talent of the caliber. So it's because of all this that now the scene can be someone on the level of Mezi, a really good support player. We are a joke no longer. Right. Do you know who the GOAT of UKCS is? Anyone who watched 1.6 will know immediately. He's a guy called Mangiacapra. He was kind of, not quite on this scale because they're truly exceptional. You know how from Slovakia you only care about Guardian? You know how from Bosnia you only care about Nico? This guy, or maybe a more appropriate example would be, like, even Rops has had too much success. How about Brokey? Let's say Brokey from Latvia or Yekindar. Like, they've been world-class players. They're not the absolute best, but they're really good. They can mix up with anyone from any country in theory. Mangiacapra, formerly known as Liquid. It doesn't say his name. Oh, yeah, there you go. Alternate ID. That was his original name when they were just in Four Kings and they all had aliases before they went to their surnames because they got sponsored by Intel in the early 2000s and used to get like £1,000 a month salary, by the way. The joke is this team's now probably on salary in like fucking 30th best team in the world or 40th or something. This guy was a stud. He was a really skilled all-round player. He could AWP, rifle, pistol. He was a really good LAN player. He had loads of experience. He was basically the final boss of UK esports. He's the reason other teams could never beat Four Kings and Infinity esports. He is the reason why. He was a fucking legend. He was a really skilled rifler, all-around game, really high consistent floor, wins all the 1v1s. This was the GOAT because he's actually a star player. What you've done is take a modern-day player who's the equivalent of like a decent defender. You've taken like Gary Neville, and you're telling me Gary Neville was better than Alan Shearer. Because Alan Shearer never won the Premier League, but Gary Neville won loads of Premier Leagues. But Gary Neville was playing like right back for one of the greatest core teams of all time with amazing players all over the rest of the squad. Alan Shearer was the player on most of his teams and had scored all the goals and was easily better than Gary Neville. That's what you've just done because you don't give a fuck about history. I'll even show you some of these guys' results, by the way. Let's just go to the best ones. So he was 5th at a CPL. By the way, that's where the best Nordic teams and the best Americans go. He came 2nd in a season of World Esports Games. I admit he scuffed rosters, losing to Anywave, Shagward, Executor and Element. He had a 4th at a CPL in 2006 with a mixed UK and international roster. By the way, that's ahead of like some really top teams. This is the era when Fraud plays and Kogu plays and fucking Forest plays. Then he had this run in CGS where he was in the Salvo, and he eventually won that himself also, by the way. And he had a bunch of success also in Source. Now, see this one here, where the top result is just shown as PC Gamer Showdown winning 9,000. Not, 250,000, although, by the way, that would be split up between the team, etc. Or these ones where you're winning 35. By the way, back then, this is the equivalent of winning 200k or 100k. Big time prize money. Technically, and not to take away from Mezi's achievement here, because this is so good for UKCS, didn't Birmingham Salvo win a major way back in 2008, or did we just ignore CS Source? CS Source had no majors. Perhaps you could say ESWC 2011. CGS wasn't a Source tournament. CGS was a tournament where you had a franchise and scores from all like 5 different games were added together to get your total team score for the franchise, and that's how you won or lost matches. They did have individual tournaments, so you could see who actually the best teams individually were in CS. And the worst thing about CS was it wasn't one of the better ones to score with, because you had to. It was how many rounds you had compared to the opponent or something ridiculous. So the problem is, if you won a close game by like 2 rounds, you get 2 as your score. But in the racing game, for example, there's only like 4 people racing, and whoever comes first gets added off the top of my head like 10 points or something. So they always get way more points. I think even same with beat-em-ups, because in beat-em-ups, if you just win all 5 rounds, it doesn't matter that your health bar went to that. You won 5 rounds, that's 5 points. So you can win in all the other games way more than the Counter-Strike matches. It was actually a flaw of the system, and why people like Jason Lake, who went ham on the Counter-Strike side, didn't win these tournaments or get anywhere in the competition. But let me just show you. So 2008 is the year we're talking about, Salvo. What we'll do is this. We'll go and look how they won it. So they won it beating a team called Opdex from NA. So first thing we need to know is Opdex really good? And did Salvo beat the other really good CS teams? So let's just go to that, shall we? So what we'll do is we'll look up Opdex and then we'll go to... So European, fair enough. Salvo won that one. Now let's go to the individual tournament, because that'll tell us this was a second competition with only 25k for the winner. By the way, the main tournament was like 250k for the winner, but it was spread across all games. This is just for CS Source. In NA, you had... this is the World Tournament. Actually, that means I need to check something for a second. So what we'll do is look at the North America finals, because obviously in the overall thing, they played against Salvo. Salvo played against Opdex. They beat Carolina Core in the semis, and then they beat Mexico City Furia, not the one you're thinking of, in the quarterfinals. So let's look. Who the fuck is San Francisco Opdex and Carolina Core? Well, if we go to the individual tournament, it was won by Dallas Venom. It wasn't even won by Salvo. So first of all, this wasn't a major. And secondly, they weren't even actually the best Counter-Strike team, because Dallas Venom beat them. So let's just go and have a look a second. In the World Finals, Dallas Venom lost to Opdex. Because guess what? It's a franchise game. So they didn't beat the best CS Source team in the final. But let's just go and look again. They also were in here. So this is where you had one from each region in this international. But let's go to North America finals and see what North America was like. North America had Carolina Core as the best and Dallas Venom. And then it had 3D and Optics. So you played Carolina Core there. Okay, they're pretty good. But you didn't play Team 3D. They didn't make it. And you didn't play Dallas Venom. They're over there. So what really relevance is it that a franchise, by the way, the MVPs of this tournament, I believe, were the racing car drivers. Not anyone from the CS team. So kind of irrelevant compared to winning, checks notes, a major in CS2 where it's only CS. Not to be rude to this guy, but I'm just pointing out he doesn't really know what he's talking about. Zwoo is the HLTV MVP of the Blast Austin Major. Let's find out. They have to go mental here. This is actually a good comment first. I like this one. Upvoted too. I think they should rework the MVP system in a way that allows an IGL to have a chance, because Apex was just phenomenal this event. Perfect calls, perfect flanks, getting all his impact frags, perfect util, clutch when he needs to be, and absolutely carried the finals. Woo has obviously been doing insane work all major and absolutely deserves it, but I really think Apex is completely unrivaled as an IGL in the complete physical plus mental package, and in my opinion, he's a massive reason why Vitality is so untouchable. He's like King Arthur wielding Zwoo like Excalibur. The last part you went too far. You overcooked there with the hyperbole. Zwoo isn't doing this stuff just because Apex is IGL. I would never say that. I think that's an outrageous thing. Like, you can give him any other player except maybe Modesty, and he won't be able to do this, no matter how much he wields him, etc. So the problem I have here is this guy is right. You can't. It's impossible to quantify the impact in IGL as compared to others. I wouldn't say that's true. Now, I didn't like it when they gave Glaive MVP because they just did it because his fragging was insane at that one tournament, like IEM Beijing or whatever. I do think you could give it to an IGL. Like, I think, for example, you could have given it to potentially like an Alexi B for that major. Basically, if there was a major won by someone where they're not no one player dominated individually, or maybe there were other players and other teams that were awesome and you got back, but it's so obvious you won from loads of T-sides and loads of great calls, and if it's someone like Alexi B and a Carrigan, you can see that they made the great call. I think you can give it to an IGL there. I think you could. I think the experts, you don't have to go off stats. By the way, you're not going off stats anyway. Experts are looking at the stats and deciding which one they think is better, contextually using their expert analysis. I do think that it is kind of whack that for like HLTV top 20 and for MVPs, we act like it's just the star player. Like, there are rare occasions, I think it's more when you don't have star players fragging, that the IGL could be that. Like, I have always thought people like, I mean, obviously, Carrigan back in the day, Glaive, you keep going back, maybe even at one point Falcons, debatable, Pronax, Zeus. These sorts of people, Existence, these people could have been on HLTV top 20 players. You could argue they were as important after some of their stars. And at certain tournaments, they were the reason why. Famously, even though now I think I probably should have given it to Kenny, yes, he did smurf. At that event, they won over Fnatic, the one that was like the DreamHack Stockholm Invitational 2 in that Global, now the Avicii Arena. I did actually give the MVP to Existence because I thought they actually just outcalled the LDLC super team that had all the best French players except Kenny S on the T-sides. They looked fucking awesome, and it was a bunch of maps that they all played. Same thread. Donk holds on to his major record at last. Get ready for the bitterness. For now. Yeah, that's how all records work. So, hey, I have a record. I did something no one else has ever done. Yeah? Well, one day someone might beat it. Well, they haven't. So can I just still have my record, please, for fuck's sake? Have I not done anything because someone might one day break it? He barely beat Simple's record. Right. It was the greatest number in history. Yeah, well, he might have beaten it, but only by a bit. What's he going to do? Be like 0.4 higher on rating? Oh, yeah, this guy just broke the 100 meter sprint world record. No one's ever run this fast before. Yeah, he only beat it by like 0.02. He didn't even get a full second less. He's not superhuman. No, he's just the greatest runner of all time. Like, what? Or rather, that was the greatest runner of all time. What's the downplay? And Zwoo was close this time. Right, so Donk having the record and barely beating Simple's record means that Zwoo not doing that is basically the same because it's close. Do you see how fucked in the head these people are? 26 points, by the way. If he didn't have this disaster final, he probably breaks it, right? So Zwoo got to play Mongols, who weren't even like a top 4 team at the tournament and weren't a favourite to win. He gets to play them in the major final and be shit in the final. Somehow that doesn't count against him and what he did. That's like, oh, actually he should have had it. Yeah, by the way, he should have broken the record logically. But saying, if he just didn't have a really bad grand final, he'd have broken it. But he did. Oh yeah, this guy would have broken the record for goals if he didn't just miss a wide open goal 5 times at the end of the season. So then how is that like a good thing for him? Does anyone understand the logic of what we're talking about? Hell, Donk himself might break it if he has a better team. Probably the opposite, mate. Like, look, if he has a better team, certainly, yes. He's so epic, like Zwoo now, that they can put up even bigger numbers. But there'll actually be many times with a better team where potentially he won't need to do as much or the game will end quicker. Brilliant. GOAT 169 points. By the way, you can say that. Especially in the last few years, it's a totally valid discussion that he can be the GOAT. 105 points. Vitality flare, so you know they're just going to whine. Even though their players have not stopped, you know they're going to whine. Unfortunately, Zwoo haters will change their agenda and go from Zwoo can't beat top 10 teams in a major to Zwoo got carried in final. So first of all, let's just examine what he said there. They'll change their agenda and say Zwoo can't, they'll stop saying Zwoo can't beat top 10 teams in a major. Now he's beaten top 10 teams in a major. He technically had beaten Cloud9, just no one thought that was a real top 10. So when haters have an agenda where they say an objective fact like Zwoo can't and hasn't beaten a top 10 team in a major, that's just your agenda, even though it's objectively true. He then does it. What happened to your agenda now? Why don't you keep saying facts that are no longer facts? Even though it proves I was wrong and you were right. Now, because I would be right now, I was always right, even when objectively I was wrong factually. And then they're going to change their crazy agenda. Get ready for the next lie. To Zwoo got carried in final. He did objectively. And you're hating and have an agenda against Zwoo to point out he was shit in the final and actually got carried by his support player and his IGL. That's just an agenda and hate. Zwoo haters only have one weapon left in their arsenal. What? Objective reality. By the way, shall I just point something out? You know how Zwoo haters changed their agenda? Remember all the modern arguments made by people like Vitality and Zwoo fans? I'll do a whole video on this. It goes like this. You can't deny he's the GOAT now. He's won 2 majors, one in CS2 and CS2. First of all, you never thought that other people who had more majors than him were the GOAT. So winning majors doesn't make you the GOAT by your logic. No, now it magically does, even though you won less majors than those other players. Then there's the whole thing where you go, look how many MVP, he has the most MVPs, he must be the GOAT. And if you say otherwise, you hate him. Then you hated Device the whole time you didn't say he was the GOAT. You hated Simple when Simple was ahead of Zwoo because you said Zwoo was better. By the way, Zwoo fans have no joke ever since 2020 been saying Zwoo, especially when he got that number 1, 2 in a row, is not only better than Simple, he's the GOAT. When he had nothing, when he'd never made the fucking semis of a major, when he'd never beaten anyone in the major playoffs, when he'd only had a few LAN tournament wins, when he'd had a bunch of his, like something like a fourth of his, 30 to 40% of his MVPs were online compared to people like Simple Advice who had gang loads on LAN. They're the ones who've changed their agenda every single time, and every single time the conclusion is Zwoo was the GOAT, it's not even close, and you hate him irrationally, or he fucked your girlfriend if you won't say what we want you to say. But no, it's other people that changed their agenda. By the way, by this logic, if Simple came back and somehow won another major, and he was the MVP carrying the final even, and he won a Grand Slam, and he got more prize money, more tournaments, more MVP, would he then be the GOAT? They would never say that. They would pivot. Spoiler, if Donk or mezii actually break all of these stats from Zwoo, will they be the GOAT? Will they fuck these people? They are projecting. They are the biased morons who change their opinion all the time. I don't know why I even had this one open. Top-rated players in the Austin Major playoffs. Zwoo, number 1, uncontested with the best team. Having the best team actually gives you slightly better chance to inflate your ratings because each match you're not going to be in super hard 1v9 scenarios like a donk. It's not going to give you as many chances maybe always to hit like a breaking record for the match, but over a whole tournament it's going to inflate your numbers. Hence why Mezii and Rops can both be here as well. Is Mezii just secretly one of the greatest players of all time and better than like Exertion? Is he fuck? Exertion has to do way more on his team, doesn't he? So uncontested with point, I go off KD, but they go off rating. Uncontested with 0.03 difference in rating. 0.03. He's uncontested. I'd say that's contesting. But by your logic, Donk has to literally reach that number. Even though earlier, if Donk exceeds Zwoo's number, yeah, but it's not by much. Amazing. Donk is extremely impressive considering how bad Chopper. So you even acknowledge he has 3 players that played really badly, and he absolutely did contest Zwoo. He just had a smaller sample size. I think Mongols is a future top 1 team when they gain more experience. 2 of their... Are you out of your mind? And by the way, you know the reason 2 of their players were in the top 10? They played Furia, one of the worst team, I think it was the second lowest ranked team ever to make a major playoffs. And then they played FaZe, where Simple shit the bed. First time that lineup's ever played a LAN together. Yes, then they played Vitality in the final, and some of them had good games. And that makes them a future top 1 team when they gain more experience. By the way, why would their experience supersede all the experience everyone else is gaining all at the same time and all the work they're putting in, all the great players? All 3, he somehow managed to make 3 shit comments separately within 1 comment. Impressive stuff. You know, I'm always rep my set, and the people who've got my back are the following people who support my videos: Matt Pugnatio, Rajcula, Jasun, Jensen Goh, Tosh, Thooorin, and you know, the all-time ride or die, Jerky's Minion, isn't it? Special thanks to him. Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? Want to find out who the upcoming interview subjects are? Do you want to take part in one of those long discussions with me where you set the topics? Maybe you want to ask me a question for my video AMA? Well, all of those perks and more are available where? At the Patreon link in the description box below. So put your money where your mouth is and join the Scroominati today. You dig?